Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Silent Issues. I'm Christina.
And I'm Tisha. Today we're going to discuss the anxiety of going back to school from the perspectives of the students, teachers, and even parents. Christina, you're about to start high school this week, so I know you must have some anxiety about what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little scary coming from a little bit of work and then this big school. It's a little intimidating. But I've been in the school for band camp for 2 weeks, so it's like I know the school and a little bit of the roots. But yeah,
So what's the anxiety issues? Like, what are you thinking when you think about
I
going
feel
back?
like this is every year, but the people in my class, I don't want bad people in my class.
Right. And I think that's the big thing with even as teachers, but kids, I know Lulu, I think, was saying yesterday that she's not going to have the same kids in her class. So she's
Yeah.
nervous about that. And everybody's nervous about that change. And I think for me, as a teacher, what happened was I was so comfortable at my other job where I most of the time got the same kids every year. I mean, we got one or two new ones. It was,
But you had the same rotation.
right. And so I kind of knew what to expect, or, they knew me and I knew them. It was still nerve wracking because things happen. But now every year I'm getting new kids. Like I was just thinking about it. I was kind of having nostalgia and feeling sad. Like I told you, I saw a kid in the
mall.
in the Walmart today.
Oh.
And I was thinking, I was like, you know what? I'm never going to see these kids again unless I
Yeah.
see them in Walmart because like they're in a whole new school now.
Yeah.
Like it's for me, that's such a big shock. Like
Yeah.
I'm not used to that. So I was like, oh crap. But I mean, I know I go through the anxiety. I'm thinking about how are these new kids going to be? Who's going to drive me the most and crazy? Who's going to be my new pain in the butt? Like, or
Yeah.
who's going to attach to me? So we go as teachers, we go through the same thing as you guys with that, our new class and thinking about that. And even as a parent, when my kids were younger, it's always like, all right, what kids are going to be in their class?
Yeah.
Is their teacher going to be
A good teacher, or
Right, like-
helpful.
exactly? He or she going to be helpful, or are they going to be that teacher that pisses you off?
Mhm.
And don't think teachers don't talk about their kids' teachers. I mean, I wasn't a teacher at the time my kids were little, but I hear it all the time with my coworkers like, oh, my, kid's teacher is this. And, because not every teacher is the same. You know
Different,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So just like all the kids aren't the same. So it's the same process.
I feel like high school is a lot more serious. Like I went to orientation and they were talking about how this is like the most important year. And I was like, okay. Because like last year I was focused, but I was a little, like I would wander or like kind of unfocused, if you would call it, for like a while. And then I would like I don't know.
Are you talking about your ADHD when you were like out of it?
Yeah, kind of like that. And then I would fall back and I wouldn't care as much because I can get it back up. But this year it's serious, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's serious all the time, but I do think they put that added burden on you when you go into high school because it's the last 4 years of your public schooling career. So let me give you more anxiety with that, right? Like this is it for you. These are the 4 years. After this, it's a wrap, sister. You're expected to be a grown up. So I mean that in itself is pressure, and I do think the transition from middle school or junior high to high school is a big jump for a lot of kids because the workload is harder. They expect way more from you, right? So that added pressure, and then in a kid like you, who you're now doing marching band, where now you have to have practice,
a lot of
right?
stuff in my mind.
Practice after school, plus go to games and things like that. So what time do you have?
What time do I have to study and focus?
Right. And
remember stuff.
And that's what sometimes I think is forgotten with
teachers?
with not just teachers, the school system itself, because if it was set up better in that sense, then maybe you wouldn't be so anxious that, oh my gosh, when I go to school, like you have that game next week Thursday. Yeah. And it's a school night.
Yeah, and it's 11 o'clock at night. So when I get home, what time do I have to do anything?
Right. And then the next day, that Friday in school, you might be tired, not focused. And then your teachers are mad at you. And then it's like, well, then you shouldn't participate in marching band. But yet we want kids to be active
in things.
Right. So, you gotta kind of understand that and give a little room for that and try to be a little more understanding of it. I mean, I know I try to with my students, but then sometimes you have kids who will take advantage of that. You know what I mean? Well, I couldn't do this because I was at the game. Meanwhile, they weren't even there or something, But I mean, going back to like the anxiety. These are the things, because we know that all these things are coming, and we don't know.
We don't know what to expect, kind of.
Exactly that. We don't know what to expect. We don't know, like, okay, what teacher you're going to have, first thing in the morning. Is that teacher going to be nice and understanding, knowing that, like, you just came from a game the night before and you're tired? Or is it going to be a teacher that, I don't care, too bad, so sad, do your work, I mean, it's hard. And then like for myself, with my students, am I going to have students who are, in the morning who are tired as well? Or am I going to have kids in the morning who are hyper bouncing off of walls? I've had both, ends of the spectrum. Struggle. Exactly. And then it's like, okay, even as a teacher, am I going to have those parents that are constantly complaining and not necessarily that they're not, I mean, I'm not saying parents shouldn't complain, because as a parent, I've been there and done it. But what I'm saying is know the whole story before you just assume that your kid is necessarily telling truth. I'm not saying don't believe your kid, but I'm saying get both sides. And I've been there, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's hard because like, it's like, for me, I want to like respect the parents so much in the sense that they're doing this for their kids, because I was that parent, I know. Yeah. But at the same time, I also know kids will do things to get out of trouble because it's kids. Like, let's be real. How many times you didn't tell your mother the whole story about something? And then when she reaches out to the teacher's like, no. And now you're like, no, that's not how it went. And your mother's like, well, she's getting mad at the teacher.
I think homework, too, is a big struggle if you have sports, extra things, anything. It's just extra time on you.
Oh, I remember when I was at one of the other schools, the kids played sports and they would do their homework in homeroom in the morning because they were so tired. By the time they came in, they had no time to do anything.
At least I have homeroom this year. Last year, I didn't get a chance to do anything.
You didn't have homeroom?
No, I had the first period. People had anything. I had intervention, luckily, but most of the time they gave me work too.
Wait, I'm still stuck on this. You didn't have homeroom? They didn't have, everybody didn't have homeroom?
How it went was we would walk around the school until first period, but then they made it to we have to go to the gym or the cafeteria and wait until 7:12, like 12 minutes, and then we would go to our first period. It was so weird.
So no one had homeroom?
No.
That is weird. So how did they do attendance in first period?
First period.
Oh, that's weird.
It was either you had intervention or a language.
Right, but that is weird to me. Like, we have homeroom, and I know at the high school...
And they would get mad at me because I would try to do my homework, and then they were, like, giving me this extra work, and I get it was considered extra help, but it was just not
okay,
help.
But in your case, I'm going to get on you. You were not doing nothing last year that you could not do your homework at home.
Yeah. This
year, if you struggled last year with that, how are you going to do it this year? You got to think about that. Because if last year you really, you had band, but you had it, what, twice a week?
Yeah, 3.
All right, 3 times a week. And it wasn't late. No. So the fact that you were not coming home and doing your homework, and I'm not saying, listen, I was a kid. I know who wants to do homework. It's like I've been sitting in school all day, 7 hours. And then when you're there for band, you're staying even longer. You don't want, the first thing you do is not wanting to do homework. But at the same time, I used to do it to get it over and done with. Yeah. But you don't have a real valid excuse.
No, I don't. I just didn't do it.
Right. So now what's going to happen now? And that's going to add to your anxiety, because if you start postponing it, you're going to find that
then I'm going to fail and I can't participate at all.
Exactly. You're going to find that you're falling further and further behind. So, I mean, the days that you don't have like a game or whatever, away game or whatever, even a home game, you need to get that homework done as quickly as possible.
Yeah, even like after rehearsal I can, because it's only 5, but the other games are later. Yeah.
Do you have, what was it I was going to ask? What is that? Not an instant, like a study hall period or anything like that?
No, it's just homeroom.
Okay, because I was going to say use that time. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, these are things that build up that anxiety because you got to try to plan.
It would nice to be like have a little time in the morning to get everything together and not feel like I have to do everything at home. And not to mention that they have middle school and high school kids go in super early. And those are the kids that are used to staying up. The studies show that middle school and high school teenagers basically stay up later than younger kids. And yet you have them going to school earlier. And that's why they come into school super tired.
I mean, it's so backwards.
Elementary. I'm sorry, not to cut
No,
you
go
off,
ahead.
but elementary goes later too because they go in 8 and I go in at 7.
Right,
So
that's what I'm saying. They go in later. Granted, they get out later,
Mhm.
but the reason they did that was because so the older kids are home to babysit their siblings if they need to, which doesn't make sense because not every little kid has a sibling anyway.
And some people have cars, so
It just doesn't make sense. I mean, the studies show that kids should not be, going like teenagers should not be getting up that early because you go to bed
yeah,
later.
and if I go to bed early, I still have to wake up early, so it's not going to make a difference.
Well, I mean, it'll make a difference in that you got more sleep. That's what. But
I won't have any time for myself or to do anything.
Well, and give up that. That's what's funny about when you're at this level of high school and stuff. You do lose out on all that because you're participating in things, and so your time is pretty much occupied all the time.
And if I get home late at 9 and then I go on my phone and then I go to sleep, I get distracted and then I won't have time to study. I mean, I do have time, but I just get distracted because it's late.
Yeah, and also because I know I do this, so I'm going to assume you do this, and I'm sure most of the world does this. When you come home and you finally can relax, the last thing you're thinking about is let me go study, let me go do homework, let me go do something I have to do. You're like, oh, I got a few minutes. Let me look at my phone and chill and relax. And then that few minutes turns into an hour or so.
It's hard.
And next thing you know, it's time for bed.
Yeah.
So I do know that. I mean, but again, that's what I'm saying. Like me this year, I have a new role as, at my job. So my anxiety is high because I technically don't know what I'm I know what I'm teaching. I don't want to say I don't know what I'm teaching. Well,
it's just different. So
it's different, but in a sense, I don't know because we were given a new curriculum as well. So besides me having a new role in my job, I now have a new curriculum to teach. And, so it's a lot. And it is a lot of anxiety for me because it stresses me. I'm a planner. I like to have things ready to go. And we just got our textbooks, the teacher textbooks, last week. We didn't even get the student ones yet. So we don't even know if they're supposed to be in, but we don't know 100% if they are. So that's more anxiety because it's like, okay, then what happens? So next week, okay, yeah, we're gonna do fun, get to know you activities. But after that,
it's serious and you don't know what's going on.
And you know what? Speaking of the fun to get to know you activities, I wanted to talk about this. I remembered. So we had a training the other day at work, and we had a keynote speaker come in. And one of the things he said, and it really resonated for me and it stood out, was he was like, what are you going to do as a teacher? What are you going to do to make the kids come running back to your class day 2? And when he said that, I was kind of like, I don't know exactly what he means by that. Like, I knew what he meant, but I wanted to know exactly what he was getting at. And what he said, he was like, when you, as a teacher, go in front of the room and you just go over all the rules, right? And this is what you're going to do. And this is my expectation, blah, blah, blah. And, just all the rules and expectations. Well, how many kids are like, oh my God, that teacher was awesome. I can't wait to go back. Right? No. So if you do something that's more fun to get to know you, it's not that you shouldn't build that structure and all that. Yeah, but you have day 2 to do that. You have day 3 to do it. So day 1, make it where the kids are like, oh my God, I love Ms. Beck. I want to come back to her class. I can't wait to, go back.
You don't want to have them stressed and like, I have to go to her class now.
Exactly. And I mean, I definitely have fun activities planned all the time the first week. But that part stood out for me where I'm like, okay, day 1, I don't need to say, hey, boom, bang, this is what we're doing. And if you do this, this is going to happen. Like, no, we'll get there. They'll know that because I'm going to talk about, right, it's school. We're going to talk about it. But at the same time, I do want to make it where the kids feel welcome, because there's teachers that you feel so comfortable with that, like, they're like your second mom or your second dad or your, just that person that you feel comfortable you can talk to. And you do look forward to going to their class. And I mean, most of the time, my students have always said that to me. But at the same time, I do want from day 1 for them to be like...
It might not even be the class. It could be just you.
Right. I want them from day 1 to go home and tell their moms, like, or parents or whoever, like, that class was great. Like, we had fun because... They have 5, 6, what do you guys have? 6, 7 classes a day?
I have 5.
5? So somewhere between 5 and 7, I guess, depending on rotations and all that. Out of all those classes, let's be honest, most of the teachers is just going to repeat the same thing over and over for 7 hours. You got to sit there and hear that. I got to say it, so I don't like it.
Times.
So it's annoying. So imagine having to sit there and hear it. You're over it, So I do want to make that first day a little bit exciting for them, where they're like, oh, okay, I don't mind coming back to that class. Now, granted, day 2, all right, we might have to get into the nitty gritty, and I start telling you these are the rules. And if I have to do it day 1, it might be because of those couple of kids who, you got to remind them, no, we're not doing that. We're not climbing on desks, okay? We're in middle school. Let's stop. But, there's always that. But, I mean, that, when he talked about that, it was interesting to me because he also said, like, people have anxiety, and where anxiety is in the brain is the same spot in the brain. I believe he said, I'm probably not using the right word, but it was like being happy. So, like, the same part of the brain controls your happiness and your anxiety. And if you're happy, you can't be anxious at the same time, So you're not going to be like a happy, hey, I'm anxious, but I'm happy. It doesn't happen. So you're going to be one or the other. So what he was saying is, it made sense because that's why he had us do, like, a stupid little activity. And we all were like...
I don't like icebreakers. Like,
I know.
When teachers are like, stand up and say your name and stuff like that.
Well, I don't usually do that. I don't make them stand up and say their name. But he had us stand up. And what did he have? He had us stand up and say one thing we were grateful for.
Yeah.
And just to a partner, not like to everybody, to a partner. And then it was like, he had us do a little silly game after. And he said, we were all smiling after, laughing about it. So he knew that we weren't anxious, because you can't be anxious and happy at the same time. So I was like, well, that's a good thought process. And I know the schools are pushing for us to have, like, small group instruction more. So even if I have 1 or 2 kids, they're partners for in the beginning, and then we switch it up or whatever. But I try to do those things to break the anxiety.
Excitement.
Yeah, to bring some joy to the classroom, because it is boring, and we're gonna learn the rest of the year. So let's have
one day.
Well, I do honestly. It'll be more than the one day. It's gonna be that week. The whole week. We'll be doing get to know you.
Some teachers do the whole week. Some teachers do one day, get to know you, and the rest of the week is like quiz and stuff like that.
Yeah, if a quiz, I could not do that to a kid. That's like. I wouldn't want that done to me, a quiz within the first week of school. I don't know what's going on. And we do, and it's funny you say that, because in my department, they did give us a quiz that we're supposed to give, but I think it's the second week or something like that.
I mean, that's still too soon.
I agree, but it's like to see what they know. And, it's whatever. I have to follow certain protocols. So there's things. So kids, if you're listening and you have me, it is not my fault. I am following the curriculum. No, but I mean, we have to do certain things, and I get that. But again, the first week, we're going to have fun to the best of my knowledge, what I can do to try to bring down the anxiety, bring down my anxiety, because it's going to be
having all these kids look at you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just standing there going over everything, and they're looking at me like, would you shut up? We don't like you, whatever it is. So it is. And, so anxiety is a hard thing. And again, parents of kindergarten kids, they're sending their kids off for the first time.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, they're anxious, think about the kids, the buses. Think about the end of the day. Oh my gosh, the buses, right?
I don't like that either.
Yeah, the buses, the end of the day. First, so the bus is always late.
I was so scared. Yeah, I was scared on the first day of middle school that I was going to miss my bus because I had no idea what was going on.
And that's high anxiety for kids. Last year, we only had the 6th graders in the first day, and the same thing this today, and not today, sorry, this week. The 6th graders, they start crying because they're so nervous, and I can't blame them. They're nervous to be there, then they're nervous about their bus. Yeah. I mean, it's scary.
You don't know, yeah.
And think about the kids. There's been stories of kindergarten kids being like stuck on buses, or getting left at the wrong stop, and their parents are flipping out, or just your kid. I remember my kids were, younger. Their bus was always a half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour late the first week of school. And you're like, where is my kid? Why am I not getting a phone call? What's going on? So, I mean, even as parents, just, putting your kid on a bus with a stranger and taking, waiting for your kid. And
especially if they have to, like, remember their bus number. I mean, they probably don't, but, like, it's new to them.
No, but a lot of times they do have to remember their bus numbers and know which bus. And as teachers, like, yes, we have the bus numbers, but it's not always, like, for me, I'm not going to lie, I can't see my phone without my glasses. So if a kid's asking me what bus, I'm like, oh my God, now I got to try to make this bigger so I can see it. you know, because they do, because at our school, I don't know if your school does this, they'll sometimes like put people on a different bus because their bus broke down or it doesn't,
Yeah,
a
they do
different
that.
route.
They announce it on the loudspeaker.
They don't announce it. We get a list and then the kids see the list. And it's fine because we have the list, like I said, on our phones. If you have your email on your phone, if you don't, that's a problem too. But the kids, you know, they get anxious. What bus is it? What bus? Where am I supposed to be?
Yeah, they forget and they like nervous.
And then sometimes, again, the buses aren't there. And then they're nervous thinking the bus left them already and the bus didn't even come yet. So, I mean, there's just so many aspects of anxiety.
I was nervous yesterday from my first football game because I was like, how am I going to do and all that stuff. But once I got up there, I was feeling better.
Yeah. It's once you start doing it, it becomes
like
normal.
School.
Right. It becomes normal. But it's that first day, even the first couple of days, that anxiety is just high. And just to put it out there, it doesn't change as an adult. Because like I said, for me, but when you have a new job, or when you go back to school as an adult, or you're in college or whatever, all of that it's high anxiety. So it is there. So going back to school is a stressful situation for everyone, and we need to be more aware of that. And bus drivers, if you guys are listening, remember you're the first ones that kids see in the morning.
Yes.
So you can make them even more anxious, or you can.
I had a
lessen
cool bus
that.
driver, and I loved my bus ride after that. So
see, and that helps when you have that bus driver that calms you down in the morning. If you have a bus driver that's like, sit down, shut up, sit down, you're going to be worse.
Like, mine was so nice. Even if my bus was loud and obnoxious, he would just look the other way.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that to each his own. I couldn't handle a bus like that, I'll be honest. But I know I had a student last year. Every time she got off the bus, she was stressed out. And she was like, I'm telling my mom, this bus driver keeps picking on me and this and that. And that was first thing in the morning. And who wants to deal with that? So that anxiety of that just sets the mood for your day,
Mine gave me a fist bump every time, so I felt nice because I was like...
That they acknowledge in you, simple things like that. Yeah. That acknowledgement, I mean, so it goes a long way. So for everyone out there, understand that we're all going through the same thing with this back to school coming, whether you're starting kindergarten or high school, or you're a teacher working, or, going to college, a parent dropping your kid off or waiting for your kid. The anxiety is high for all of us, but we'll get through it. We always do. We'll get through it.
You're always nervous, and then it comes and goes.
Yes. So we'll be okay.
Once again, thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll continue to join us every week for our podcast, Silent Issues. You can find us on YouTube.
Join us next week when we discuss things that give you the ick. And for you guys who don't know what the ick is, it's the things that annoy you, that people do out in public. So we'll talk about that. All right, guys, have a good one.